I am Rokas Varanavičius. I'm with the Turnkey Technologies. And today we have Dave Bonney, who will be doing the presentation, and we also have Dave Clark representing Microsoft for any Q&A or additional details as needed. From agenda perspective, as I already mentioned, we will briefly talk about who the Turnkey is and what we bring to the table and why we are excited to present on the field service subject. Then we'll dive straight into the field service related conversations. From there, we'll talk about high-level understandings of what really are some of the concepts to consider, and then we will show a lot of software, a lot of technical details, functional details to show you how this wonderful technology can really facilitate the transformation of your business. So with that said, without any further ado, let's get into who the Turnkey is. So from our point of view, we've been in business for 23 plus years now. We are unique in the way that we are focusing on ERP. We have been doing that for 20 plus years, and we are bringing other technology around that. So a lot of times, when we implement best of class sort of technology that is standalone, that is siloed, by itself, it looks good, looks exciting, the features are nice, users might like it, but sooner or later people will find that, well, I have to pull some data from ERP, or I have to address some of the things from accounting perspective, or I have to consider what the data that we gather in our standalone system, what kind of impact that data has on accounting processes. So from our point of view, we are always thinking about, if we're talking about field service, if we're talking about project service, if we're talking about anything related to the optimization and transactions of your business, we always think about what kind of impact does it have on accounting, and then we have expertise to bring that to you and guide you as an innovative partner. So from our point, we are focusing on empowering your organizations in providing better processes to your employees, providing greater profitability to your bottom line, but most importantly, providing better experience to your customers without adding much more stress into your organization. So obviously we do end-to-end sort of solutions, but when you think about a turnkey, we are, number one, your strategic partner, strategic consultant, and then anything in between the strategy to actual implementation of the solution that we put together. We do integration work, we do custom development work, we do a lot of things that go into making the project successful. So that's it on who the Turnkey is, and let's roll to the next slide.
So this is Dave Bonney, and this is the topics we're going to be addressing today. So needless to say, field service business is very much aligned with the resources, which in the case of a field service or any kind of service type of organization is very dependent on the people who are providing the service. So today what we're going to do is we're going to discuss and we're going to show you some tools where you can actually improve the utilization of your service technicians. Targeting what we're looking for. Let's say if you have a service technician that is doing four service calls per day, what we're talking about is perhaps increasing that to 5 per day without extending the work hours, doing it in an intelligent manner where that same individual is just utilized more effectively. Along with the obvious benefits of getting the increased kind of revenue per technician is what I'm calling it here, there's the overhead that's associated with finding out who the right person is, the right person, the right place at the right time type of logic. So what we're going to do today is really demonstrate some great tools that show you how you can not only do that better, but you can actually reduce the effort to find who needs to be at that customer site, when they're going to be there, and really automatically communicate that with the customer. And it's kind of a byproduct of this whole overall improving efficiencies, getting the right person there at the right time. We're really talking about it as kind of a byproduct of that. You're going to reduce a lot of the overhead associated with delivering those services, which in the case of a field business where you're actually traveling to the customer site means you have less transportation costs in terms of wear and tear on your vehicles, gas, that type of thing. So Along with that, if you actually improve your efficiencies and add more intelligence to who you get at a customer site and when you get them there, kind of a byproduct of that is this whole increased customer satisfaction. And the tools we're going to show you allow you to schedule things based in a more predictable manner, okay, so that means your customers will be better informed of when that service technician is going to get there. You can actually look at their own special requests like morning, afternoon type of thing. And kind of as a result of all this, the most valuable asset I contend that a service organization has got is a couple different things. One is the technicians that provide your service, or the feet on the ground that are doing whatever service you provide. The other thing that's so critical to a service organization is the customers. By far your cheapest and most effective marketing is done to existing customers who are happy with your service and use their word of mouth to get you additional customers. So that's really kind of a key byproduct of what we're going to show you today. And the last thing, if you look at that, you have happy customers, you have efficient, and are communicating in a real-time mode with your field service technicians. So what does that result in? Basically, your service technicians are going to be happier. They'll be at the service site. They'll be there in a predictable manner, so they're not going there where a customer's frustrated because they're showing up late. They'll have the right parts on there, and they'll perform the service correctly the first time. So all in all, it's a win-win situation across the customers and your service technicians. So the challenge of a service organization are this: not all work has the same value. So what does that mean? Well, you could have work, so service technicians are your delivery people, not only provide services to your customers that generate revenue, they also are going to have to do some work that's internal. They may need to count the inventory on their truck. They may need to participate in some sort of sales-related call where they go out and actually help put together an estimate for a new installation or a new project. And we're going to address some of that during this demo also. But recognizing that it doesn't all have the same value is just one of the realities. The other thing, the customer relationship may affect the value of the work. Okay, so in other words, you may have a customer who has committed to several different locations. Maybe they've committed to a year's worth of preventive maintenance plus some higher level of support whenever something critical happens. So realizing that not all customers have the same value is important when you're actually scheduling the work. Not that you ever want to dismiss the work of customers anyway, but you may want to prioritize the work of those customers who are paying extra dollars because of the impact your service can have on their business. The third consideration is not all work is the same in terms of urgencies or the critical nature of it. So regardless of kind of the customer value in the work that's being provided, you usually need to also look at the how critical it is. Is there something that's out at that customer site that is causing them a business impact? Is it an air conditioner that's out when it's 101 degrees outside? So you may want to prioritize work based on the critical or urgent nature to your customers. The other reality of a service business is not all work will be completed when our customers want it, and that even includes the internal work. And it's just a reality. You can't possibly have enough resources or technicians or service-related personnel to go out and meet all customer demand. The impact on the profitability on your business would just be too great, and it's the nature of the ups and downs would make that somewhat impossible to do. So it's important to understand all of these factors, or understand that when you actually schedule work. The third thing is scheduling, I contend, or a lot of people contend, is probably one of the biggest impacts on the profitability. And that is basically, number one, if you're in a service business, your service personnel are the ones generating your revenue. The other thing is the amount of work that they can get done is affecting, the revenue that you get from it, and the costs associated with that is also affecting your revenue. So the ability to schedule that is a critical thing. The other thing that we need to realize is that personnel, people in your business, are asked more to do more than just deliver a service. It's never going to be someone who just goes out there and delivers a service. They will have to do other things to support your overall business. So the last thing that we're going to just kind of mention as a challenge in a service organization is really the whole service industry is becoming so competitive now that the ability for you to do this and make these decisions in an intelligent manner is going to have a significant impact on your customer retention. Delivering the right service, the right place at the right time is kind of a key consideration. So let's go ahead and break this down into kind of the functional components of what work is and what these resources are. So you're always going to have a backlog of work. So it's important to understand what the work that you have is now and kind of what are the components of that work that needs to be done. The second aspect is kind of who is available to execute that work. So you have kind of two buckets here. One is work and the other resources that are going to execute on that work. So if we look at the components of work, we're looking at several different considerations within this work bucket. Number one, the work's going to have a priority, and I've already spoken a little bit about that, where some may be urgent, some may be for a different priority based on the customer relationship. It could be based on, the difference in revenue dollars. Work is going to have a location if you're in a service business. Knowing where that location is at relative to the people who are going to deliver that service is a critical thing to understand. Not all work has the same skills required for it, so we need to be able to address that and understand what the work is and what skills are required to execute on it. The type of work is going to vary too. It could be, preventative maintenance, or it could be something that's, that critical, critical service request, or it could be a customer install, which is kind of a longer ramping up project in some cases when you do campus installs or some bigger projects. And there may, along with that work, be special information that you need to convey to the service technician, which could be how you get into the building, kind of special codes that they need to get into the building, just basically other instructions that it takes to perform that work. So now let's look at the resource side of things. So we got the work bucket over on the left side. On the right side, we're seeing our resources. So resources are going to be located somewhere. They could be starting from their home. They could be starting from the office or the organization that they work at. And once they hit the road, their location is going to be changing. So the ability to understand where they are at now and what the travel distance to the next customer site is critical to scheduling. The other thing is resources have working hours. Some of them have night shifts, some of them could have day shifts, some of them may be more willing to work later hours, some of them may have more of a premium they have to pay for working outside of their normal working hours, so it's good to understand all of that. The other thing, if you look at the left side, we got skills needed. On this side, we got skill set. Okay, so skill set is the ability to have skills that are unique to what a customer wants, and to understand those for a particular resource is critical to make sure you get the right resource at the right place. The other thing is, even though we have resources and we sometimes wish they were available 40 hours a week, they do have personal time, and part of our employee satisfaction is making sure that that's accounted for and that we don't really impact that with scheduling. So keeping track of their vacations. And the other thing is with resources, we may have resources which are our personnel aligned with territories, with accounts. They have different pay rates. They have different expectations in terms of maybe what they have available on their trucks. So understanding kind of what the resource is, what they're associated with, other information like that is critical to track by resource. So all of that gets mixed together in this bucket, and the tools we're going to show you are just really excellent at analyzing those factors, putting them together and making it easy for a dispatcher, or we're also going to talk about another tool out there that automates a lot of this to come up with the best mix in terms of skills, location, expectations around the customer, and come up with the schedule to support that. So there's going to be 4 buckets really of work that we demo today, and ways to do that, to take these ingredients, mix them together, and come up with the perfect schedule. So one way is just manual. You may already know the customer, you may know the technicians. You know, if you want to just be able to quickly schedule something and have that automatically communicated, we're going to demonstrate that today. Another way is, and I think this is critical, and the tool is really excellent at this, as being able to visually see what's going on and be able to use some human intelligence. If you look out there and you're seeing a map and you know that there's a site that needs some sort of work done, and there's a technician close, and he has availability, you may just want to go ahead and just use all of that visual information to go ahead and schedule. You'll be able to confirm it with the actual schedule board and how it shows up. So we're going to demonstrate that capability today. Another one, and this is a fantastic tool, is this universal scheduler that Microsoft has in their field scheduling, which gives you some baked-in intelligence with business rules and skills and all of this stuff we're talking about, where it'll automatically recommend resources that you can use, and you can select a resource based on recommendations. And the last one, and we've got some slides on this, is this resource schedule optimization, which is a tool that does all of this for you based on these business rules, with the capabilities of automating pieces of it. But if there's other pieces that you want to have locked in and not changed by this tool, you have the capability to do that. So it's really a fantastic tool for those type of things. So with that being said, the way that Microsoft, so this is kind of crawling underneath the covers and seeing how Microsoft has done it. And I really like the way they've put this together, because being kind of having a background in this type of technology, they have this thing called the Universal Resource Scheduling and Market. Well, I can't even pronounce Universal Resource Scheduling Marketecture. Okay, but what it is, it's a way of really abstracting work into the common characteristics that all work has, and being able then to create basically work requests in a way that does all the alignment based on either automation or the logic that's built in these tools. So if you look at the top, we're going to show you when we get to the schedule board how this really looks and how it's managed through the tools that Microsoft provides. But it has, the key up there is kind of that center one called work orders. That's where it all started at. Those are your service requests, where your technicians are traditionally going out and providing service based on basically demand, which may be through phone calls, websites, whatever. So it's kind of the traditional work order, where it's shorter in nature, very demand driven, very dynamic. If you look to the left of that, we have something called project tasks. And not only is there going to be demand that's driven for service requests, but a lot of service industries also have these projects or these longer implementation cycle things that go on. So for an example, we have a customer HVAC customer, they may get a whole campus installation of HVAC equipment, which is a project, which is going to require multiple weeks and subcontractors, but it's going to use the same resources that they would use to do servicing. Okay, at least it makes sense to do that, to keep your optimization up. So what the tool now provides you is a way of doing those bigger, longer running tasks, scheduling things over multiple weeks, and slicing out time for your service technicians to be able to perform that work, and having that information represented in their schedules, so that when they schedule the work orders, which is the kind of the on-demand stuff that's coming up, you make allowances for the project-related work. So it's a tremendous tool in terms of allowing you the flexibility to do it, to manage both of those scenarios, and do it in a way that you make commitments and execute on it in a consistent manner. So it gets back to the whole predictability. And to the far right, you see the thing called custom entities, which is kind of a Microsoft terms, but what that really means is that's functionality that you want to be able to schedule against. So in the demo I'm going to give you, we're going to talk about sales related things, and you want to schedule a lot of times technical resources to do those sales related projects in order to come up with estimates, things like that. So you want to make sure you can make allowances for that, in addition to the work orders, which are really kind of driving a lot of your resource utilization. So if you look below there, they've got these purple bars that go across with the green boxes in them. And what that represents is a way that Microsoft has abstracted this technology, where everything has a duration, it has skills, it has roles, locations. We're going to go into and show you how Microsoft has done this and the intelligence behind it. And if you look at it, you see a happy scheduler there, okay, because now she has these tools to work with to manage all of these things going on in a way that's easy to understand, easy to execute on, and it's creating this predictable delivery model. So if you look to the left, and we're going to display this right off the bat, kind of the visualization, it's going to show how you visually can see and confirm that all this stuff is going on, and you can even make adjustments based on what you're seeing. And if you look to the right over there, it's optimization tools, and that's the actual tools that help you build these business rules and decisions into your into how you're actually scheduling. And those two work together very nicely. We're going to show you examples of this. And if you look below, what we're doing is just showing that the resources that are being booked based on the combination of these two tools. So with that being said, I think what we'll want to do is get rapidly into the demo here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up my demo. And what you should be seeing now is the resource schedule board. And so what is a schedule board? So I mentioned graphic visualization. This is your way to manage your business, okay? And it's a way to do it. It's very intuitive. It's basically easy to see what's going on and gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of finding who's available next to do the work. So if you look here in the middle, what we're doing is we're showing these bars, and these bars are different colors, and that color represents the status of what that work is. So if you look up here, you see the blue bars, that's work that's actually committed, that hasn't been delivered yet. The green bars are representing the work that's actually in progress. And that's based on not someone from the schedule board updating it, but your resources as they actually travel, and they use their mobile devices, can use their mobile devices to confirm where they're at. When they get to the customer site, they're actually clicking a button that says, I've started this work. And if you notice these boxes too, a lot of them have this green bar out in front of them, this smaller one, that is a travel time. So one of the great things with this tool, it's not only computing the amount of time that they'll have to spend completing the work, it's also showing you the travel time from their previous location. So Jorge here is actually traveling from either his home or the customer, not the customer site, but his business, and traveling to the customer, and has 9 minutes to get there. So we've done a pretty effective job of scheduling Jorge's first job. If you look to the left, so this is the work that's being performed. These are the individuals that you've got performing the work. Now, one of your questions may be, what if I've got more than, whatever we got here, 6 individuals, 7? You can have many more of these and scroll up and down, but the other thing that's really nice about this tool is you can have multiple representations of a schedule board that you can divide up based on either a different type of work that's being performed, a different territory. And if you see up here, what we're looking at it specifically right now is the Seattle area and some resources really assigned to kind of the downtown Seattle. But you also have this thing called Washington Outstate. I guess I show where I'm from when I say Washington versus Washington. But anyway, the Washington Outstate is really resources that are being managed by a separate dispatcher, but you can have overlap between the two. So if you really want to make utilization of resources, if you don't have enough in one territory, one of the nice features of this tool is the ability to go out and look for resources in other areas, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Okay, so that kind of talks about our schedule board and the tasks that we're showing up here that are scheduled and who they're scheduled to. If you look over here to the left, we see a map, okay, that shows lines, it shows colors, it shows these question marks. So just as a real quick overview, the solid ones here, this is actually a resource. So that's Matthew Everson, and it shows him starting his route from his home and traveling to the first customer site, which is right here, which is work order 10 at Coho Vineyards and Winery. You can click on these and you can actually highlight their route. So if I click on Jorge here, I can see his height his route being highlighted on the left, I can click on here and show, basically turn him on and off on the map, so I can highlight his route as well as see where he's starting from and where he's going to. So a very dynamic tool. The other thing I can do with this map is I can turn on, and I'm going to expand it out a little bit and go back to the left. I can also look at traffic. So if I click on here, I'm seeing the traffic situation. So pretty early in the morning, a lot of morning rush hour going on in Seattle, and it's showing you basically the traffic that's going on in relation to the different routes that are there. The other thing we mentioned too is the, so that's part of that graphical tool, and it's part of what you can use to help schedule work orders based on location if you just want to just do things based on that. At the bottom, remember we talked about on the previous slide where we have 3 types of work that we're doing that we can actually schedule against, and this is representing that. So if we're on open requirements, this is showing all our work in one bucket. This is the work orders. It's the work column that we had in the previous one. It's the work that we do, basically the sharp predictive work that we do, or that we want to be predictive on based on pretty dynamic things that are going on in terms of a customer needs the air conditioner, there's an MRI machine that needs maintenance, that type of thing. And this view that you see is the one that's most closely aligned with kind of that on-demand work orders, or it could be even on-demand projects that are going on. If you look at this view over here, we're showing project-related work. So project-related work, just like everything else, is going to show up on the task. If we want to show it up as a task out here, and we'll actually reserve time for our technicians to perform that work. And the last one, we had the thing that we called, it was a custom entity one. And what I've done in this case is we know that most organizations, even including ours, it's a consulting business, where we know that there's going to be demands for our technicians to do work other than just, the normal installation, either in a project mode or in a service request mode. And so what I'm showing here is there's actually an estimate that we need to do for a new MRI room. And so we actually show that that's an opportunity that we're going to have to assign. It's going to be 5 hours. We can have this done over a period of time. It doesn't have to be all in the same day. So it's a little bit different type of work, but we also want to be able to show that that work is being scheduled and we're committing to it. Okay, so let's go back and look at the different ways we can do it. Let's go back and take our on-schedule work item. So one of the things I mentioned was that we can just, if we know the work, we know, so I'm looking up here, I say, I know Tony, he's got nothing on there. I see we have City Power and Light. I know that customer well. I know Tony can perform that work. Let's just get him started with that right away. So we're going to take that work item. We're just going to drag it up to our schedule board here. We're going to start it at 8 o'clock. And boom, Tony has got work scheduled at that time. Now what this is going to do, it's not just only going to schedule Tony's work, and there you see it show up on the board. It's also going to communicate with him immediately to his mobile device and say, Tony, you've got to get to this site. And by 8 o'clock, normally we would do this before 8 o'clock. And so he immediately knows that he needs to be there and then travels to that location. So let's look at the next thing. So that's just that on-demand dragging, dropping, using the tools in a visual manner to schedule work. So let's look at, so this was Jorge. He was the last individual we looked at, and we could see that there is possibly a couple of work orders close to Jorge. So let's go ahead and look at one of those. And see what else we got out there. Maybe we want to do this one first. Shoot, this tool is not working well. But what we can actually, it's not the tool, it's actually my browser and some other things. But what we can do is actually schedule that particular job based on, let me go ahead and do a refresh on this, and I'll go back and see if I can grab up Jorge. So what I'm doing is grabbing work that I see is close to Jorge here. And what it does up here, it brings up what they call the schedule assistant, which shows basically that demand for that work. And I can switch to the filter view over here. And what I'm doing now is I picked a job, I picked it based on location using the map. And what it's doing right away is it's showing me who's available to do that work. It shows based on location, based on driving. It's based on other things that are going on over here. So if we scroll down and look at this, we see the demand is we're using the Seattle territory, and I didn't put a lot on here, and it's looking at who's available first and how long they have to drive to get there. So based on the map that we just know, we know that Jorge is going to be the closest one to the job. And we're going to go ahead and click the book. So when we click the book, what it's going to do is go ahead and automatically add that to his schedule. And so if you look up here, you see this new work item just appeared called work order item number 54, which is basically that work that we just had, that we just looked at the map and scheduled it based on that. So one of the things I just exposed on here was the intelligence that goes behind, where it takes the skills, it takes a location, and it takes the basically the ability of the schedule of that person to do the work, and combines those together, gives you recommendations, and lets you dynamically select who you want to do the work. So let's go back and really take a little bit better look at this filter tool. So the filter is what allows us to do a lot of the things that I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and say we've got this basically board of people that do the work over here, but let's say if we want to be able to filter by roles. So let's say we want to be able to look at technicians that are able to do the work and do a filter on that. So what I've done is I've changed the view over here to technicians, and I've filtered out senior technicians. I've filtered out, there's some consultants and some other things that I've filtered out. So it may be that we want to assign work to these guys first, or gals, based on basically their bill rates and other things, but it's a way for us to filter down who we see and who we want to assign the work to. So let's go ahead and remove that, and let's go ahead and expand our territory now. Let's go ahead and expand to Washington. Now all of a sudden we see a lot more resources. So one of the things I talked about before was the ability to divide up the work, which I showed up here. You can have multiple like territories or business units and schedulers, but then sometimes you may need to get someone with a skill out of another area that's close. So this shows how we can use our filters over here to change the resources that we have available to do the work. And you know, as we change who's available, it also changes the amount of what's shown up on the map. So this all works very dynamically together. So it's just a lot of, this is where a lot of the basically the logic is in terms of how we align the work and the skills and everything else. Okay, so let's go back to let's go ahead and click out of this. Let's go back to our original view. We'll go ahead and do a search on that, get back to where we started from, go back to our map view, and let's look at kind of the how we prioritize our work. So one of the things we talked about on the previous slide is a couple of things. Number one, not all work has the same value, and that value may be based on basically the customer relationship, or be based on the nature of the work, if something's out that's impacting the business. So if you look down here, what we see is the capability to prioritize the work based on this priority. So we see we have an urgent request from Contoso Hospital, which is one of our premier customers. So what we want to do in this case is we want to find the first person that's available to perform this work. Okay, because this is critical, every minute that it's down is going to be impacted. So what it's using behind the scenes, it's using the logic we built in, which is the skills that are required, the person that's available. It's looking at location of the individual, how long it's going to take them to drive there. We could show we could go back and show the traffic situation if you wanted to check that out and get that granular. But in this case, what it's doing based on skills, based on availability, we don't care who does the work as much as that they got the right skills and they get there as quickly as possible. So what we're going to do is, looks like Tony's got availability, so we're going to go over here and book Tony's time. So what we're doing now is actually doing the same thing we did before. where when we showed this one up here, we did it based on looking at location and then assigning it based on that. In this case, it's critical business that needs to be executed as quickly as possible with the right person. So it shows basically the travel time here, 18 minutes or miles travel time, and then the work order that's associated with that. So this is giving us the information. It's immediately scheduled. It's immediately communicated with the, with our technicians that are performing the work, and so everything's coordinated. When they get done with this job, it'll turn this completed, and you'll see this one actually turn into in progress as it works forward. So very dynamic tool, very powerful, extremely useful at scheduling work. So the other thing we talked about, and we talked about this a little earlier, was this whole utilization thing, right? We want to improve our utilization on resources. And if we scroll down through here, we're seeing a couple different things. We're seeing this percentage over here. We're seeing something that looks like hours and minutes. And what we're doing is we're showing the amount of time we have basically our resources scheduled and the percentages that we have them scheduled for. So we can use this to maximize basically an individual's time. So if we look at percentages or things like that, we can, Dave Bonney here needs more work. We can use that to help us schedule. We can look at who is overutilized here. And we're looking at just the daily view in this case, but this tool gives us the option to not only look at, the hours and what's going on in that day, but let's look at what's going on for an entire week. So what we see here is we see a couple of trends. We see that we have some ongoing work scheduled for Dave, and that may be basically project work. We see Jorge, and we see the daily schedule, so this is kind of the hours that are scheduled in a day. In some cases, I've got some people, this is not showing up in red because I had Van scheduled for 10 hours per day. But in other cases, and same with Matt, but in other cases, when we go over the number of hours, it's going to show up in this view as red. So we know that we're overscheduled there. We should open up Catherine, see what she's got going on. We can kind of click here, and it shows basically what she's got going on and what needs to be rescheduled. But this view also gives us the ability to take and schedule new work to people based on their availability to project-related work. So this is kind of the project view. So let's go back and look at some projects we might have out there and show how this tool can actually schedule kind of work orders across multiple days for people based on project-related work. So we see here we have install medical equipment down here, which is it's a project that's going to have multiple people working on it, and it's got a demand for a service technician, and this is representing that demand of 20 hours. So we're going to go ahead and drag that to our schedule board. We're going to show that starting on May 17th. We're going to show that being completed on, we'll show that completed on the 22nd. And we're going to ask the system to take and basically do a percentage of their capability or capacity and do it based on that. So we're not going to have them full time on this. We're going to cut them back to 50% of their time working on this, and the other 50% will be available for basically the on-demand work orders that come up based on service requests, and then we're going to click the book column. So as we see, it's changing the it changed to a slash line when it was actually computing. Now it's actually showing that we have work scheduled here. So what that has done, it's updated our daily schedule board too, so we can go back, or where we're showing the hours per day. We started tomorrow, so if we move forward to the next day, we'll see that we've got Tony Sellers here. We've got work for him to install the medical equipment, and it's automatically created a basically on-demand work request here that we can plan other work around Tony, and still make sure we make our commitment for getting this installed. So really quickly, some of the other things that I just want to show you here on the board, it's showing, when we went to the other one, it showed utilization per week. This is utilization per day, but we have, if I hover over Dave Bonney here, I can see specific skills and roles related to him. So senior technician with building access, MRI certification, and project management. We can do a deeper dive into the actual work orders and show what's going on in there, which is where we're matching up this with basically the capabilities here. So overall, let me just kind of recap what I've been able to demonstrate here. So a couple different things. Number one, if you remember, first thing I showed is we know who has availability, we know the work, and we just dragged and dropped it on our, basically on our calendar here and assigned it to that person using that method, remembering that everything behind the scenes is automatically being taken care of in terms of communicating with our service technician as well as communicating with our customer. At least we have the capability to do that. Number two, I showed that we had this visual representation over here where we could look at what was going on with the service technician, and we could drag and or we could actually select something out there and assign it to them based on, we see that it's close and we see that, you know, we just want to go ahead and schedule it. We don't want to look for something else. We understand what's going on. We don't want to use the tool more than that. Third thing I demonstrated was down here where we had an urgent service request, which is a work order in that case. We went through and addressed that. We actually used the tool to find the first available resource to do that. And the fourth thing I demonstrated was that whole drag and drop where we're basically doing, kind of using the tool also to help us align the work across multiple days. There's also a fourth option that we're going to talk about, and it's this resource schedule optimization. So what I'm going to do is jump out of this now and go back to the actual slide deck. So the other option that we mentioned, we haven't gone into a lot of detail yet, is this thing called the resource schedule optimization. So what is RSO, which is obviously the acronym for that? So we had work. We demonstrated how we had those buckets of work, and those buckets of work are projects. It's related to, could be related to sales effort. It could be related to basically our schedule type stuff. We have people who are able to execute the work, so that's our resources. And we have built into that tool right now, and I demonstrated that by filters and things like that, that we have logic built in and what the work requires in this way that they've abstracted that out, meaning the way that Microsoft and us, we've abstracted that out. We have resources, capabilities to execute that work. So with the tool that Microsoft's put together, we have this great feature called RSO. And what that allows us to do is automatically, rather than having someone sit at a schedule board and click on things and do it that way, it'll automatically drop in this schedule based on the work and the resources. And it's going to take into consideration, you know, the travel distance to get there, the hours that the individual has to work, the schedule that they've currently got, their skill sets and the priority. So we demonstrated that manually in the last one. This is doing it automatically. And so there's a lot of reasons you might want to consider buying RSO. And obviously the biggest reason, it'll quickly schedule all your work and work orders. It will minimize, it'll take into consideration all of the things we demonstrated in the previous in terms of the logic. So all of that's being adhered to. You know, if you save 1 tank of gas, RSO is already paid for itself. You know, some of the things we talked about in terms of values of using these tools, reduce wear and tear on vehicles. Obviously, if you're making intelligent decisions and you have dispatchers spending less time to do that, you have basically another resource to do other work for you. We've shown the ability that not all work orders are created equal and not all work is created, so you can look at the higher priority ones first. And basically anything you can do in a more predictable manner increases your overall employee satisfaction. So this is just kind of a graphic representation of, you know, is it right for you? Will this tool work better than manually scheduling it? But if you look at this, if you have 3 field agents and you have 15 work orders, there's a possible combination of 2,700. So even doing this, if you tried to do this manually and do it efficiently, it becomes very challenging. So this tool can pay off pretty rapidly based on, you know, the number of employees and the kind of the complexity. Obviously, the bigger you are, probably the more value. And the value that we've demonstrated, so this is kind of a recap of what we've talked about so far, is the value of being able to schedule your technicians, improving the utilization, getting from 4 to 5 maybe visits per day, reducing travel time, and managing commitments. It's all about commitments. It's commitments with your service technicians as well as your customers. We showed you how you could manage multiple day projects, how you could drop that in to the schedule board, and how you could use that to manage other work that's going on and make that commitment and honor that. And how you can commit resources to more than one billable task. So the question is really now, with all of these features, how do we move forward? And what we've done, so I'm going to give you a little bit of an extra bump on this. So we have this thing called the field service assessment. And what it is, okay, there's a common, I think, concern that this is a sales tool that we use, but this is actually free consulting that we're providing you. And you ask, why would a company provide you free consulting? It's for a couple of different reasons. Number one is we feel that we're very good at understanding kind of the nature of the industry and how that applies to the tools that we just demonstrated here. And we feel like if we help you understand kind of what the increased productivity and the impact of this tool is, that even if you don't select us, okay, that's got great value to you, and that's got great value to us to demonstrate kind of our capabilities and our knowledge. So what we're looking at here is, it's a tool where we go through, we have questions, we go through and evaluate those questions. It actually analyzes it behind the scenes, and it rates your business based on your capabilities versus how important that capability is to you. So the blue bar in this case represents basically how important it is, and the pinkish purple bar represents how you map against that capability. So what you're looking for here is the gaps between the value and the capability. So if you look at this, you're seeing optimized delivery is important. You're seeing that financial is important, and you're seeing inventory is very important. So those are some of the three key pillars. And we can address all of those with kind of the platform that we're putting in place and we're proposing, and we love the opportunity to discuss that. So one of the values of this is, after we do the survey, we know your business, and we can talk about how we can optimize that business. So and specifically, so once we understand your business and give you this feedback, what we will then specifically talk about is the tool and how that tool can help you and the impact that tool will have on your business. So it allows you to see a couple different things aside of you know, what the value is to your business, and specifically how that tool can impact your business. So we're talking about inventory. We're talking about a couple different scenarios here where we can go into great detail and actually give you feedback. And as a result of all that, you kind of understand how you map against other service-related businesses, I think everyone wants to know that. And with the demo and everything, you get a great visual representation of how we can actually close the gap between where your business is, with an understanding of where the competition is and where you can get to, and how this tool can specifically do that. And it gives you the capability to not only understand that, but see and visualize how that's going to work. So your level of comfort when you get involved with, if you got involved with us or even someone else, would be much greater based on that. And from us, it gives us a better understanding of your business. So when we jump into project, we understand kind of what it's going to take to do it, and give you a better feedback on kind of the approach and the priorities, as well as the effort and timing. So with that being said, I'm going to open it up for Q&As. I don't know if Dave Clark's on here, if you have anything that you want to add at this point, or any additional information on RSO. He's one of the premier kind of product people with Microsoft, very well respected. So, okay. So I'm getting feedback that we don't have any questions at this point. So what I may do is just at this point, just give you kind of let's go to the last slide here and talk about, we already talked about our relationship, but kind of put in a plug for the field service assessment. So this is one of, like we mentioned earlier, one of several broadcasts that we've done, webinars that we've done specifically around field service. We have a very strong practice in field service. We have the assessment that we can do, and this is a link to our website that shows where you can sign up for the assessment. let me just kind of turn this over to Rokas and see, Rokas, if you want to go ahead and wrap us up.
Well, Dave, thank you very much for the presentation. It was insightful and useful, and it's always exciting to see the things behind the scenes and, seeing a little bit more of the software than just PowerPoint presentations. So you did a great job. As Dave said, look forward to some additional details. We will be talking about next deep dive webinar shortly. You will be receiving some invitations, and you always can revisit our website, our YouTube channel to review these videos again, or share them with your coworkers. So with that said, team, thank you very much for completing the webinar, and participants, thank you very much for allowing us to present this information to you.